Her single mum takes a job as a nanny for twin girls who live with their blind millionaire dad. His huge mansion screams luxury, but hides a deep pain, the father's blindness and the girl's loneliness. One day, after hearing strange noises from their room, he realizes his blindness doesn't stop him from reconnecting with his family. If this story moved you, make sure to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. Stay tuned. The November rain pelted against the windshield as Olivia Bennet drove through the imposing wrought-iron gates of the Thornwood estate. The wipers struggled against the downpour, matching the rhythm of her anxious heartbeat. 6 months ago, her world had shattered when her husband Ryan disappeared in a boating accident, leaving her alone with their 5-year-old daughter, Lily, and a mountain of debt. The memory of that day still haunted her, the phone call, the search parties, the eventual acceptance that he would never return. "Is this where we're going to live now, Mummy?" Lily's small voice piped up from the back seat, clutching her worn teddy bear. Olivia caught her daughter's eyes in the rearview mirror and forced a smile. "Not exactly, sweetie. This is where Mummy will work. Mr. Thornwood has 2 little girls, just like you, and I'll be taking care of them." The sprawling Georgian mansion loomed ahead, its grand silhouette a stark contrast to the cramped apartment they'd been living in since they had to sell their house to pay off Ryan's debts. The advertisement for a live-in nanny position with the Thornwood family had been a lifeline Olivia couldn't ignore. Competitive salary, accommodations for both her and Lily, and the promise of stability they desperately needed. As Olivia parked, near the side entrance, her phone buzzed with a text from Eleanor Hughes, Mr. Thornwood's personal assistant and the person who had interviewed her. "We're ready for you. Use the service entrance on the east side." The service entrance turned out to be a door that would have passed as the main entrance in any other home. Olivia helped Lily out of the car, grabbed their 2 suitcases, all that remained of their former life, and hurried through the rain. Eleanor opened the door before they could knock. She was exactly as Olivia remembered from the interview, tall, immaculately dressed, with salt and pepper hair pulled into a severe bun, and sharp eyes that seemed to catalogue Olivia's every flaw. "You're on time." "Good," Eleanor said, her tone neutral as she stepped aside to let them in. Mr. Thornwood values punctuality. Inside, the opulence was overwhelming. Marble floors, soaring ceilings with intricate moldings, and artwork that likely cost more than what Olivia would earn in several years. Lily's eyes widened in wonder, her mouth forming a small O of amazement. "The girls are having their lunch," Eleanor explained, leading them through a labyrinth of hallways. "You'll meet them shortly. First, let me show you to your quarters." Their quarters turned out to be a charming suite, with a small living area, 2 bedrooms and a private bathroom. Luxury compared to their recent accommodations. Olivia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. At least here Lily would have space to play, a proper bed to sleep in. "This is amazing," Olivia whispered, watching as Lily immediately ran to look out the window that overlooked expansive gardens. "Mr. Thornwood believes in providing for his staff," Eleanor replied, checking her watch. "You have 20 minutes to settle in. Then I'll introduce you to the girls and give you the tour." She paused at the door. "And a word of advice, Miss Bennet. Mr. Thornwood rarely interacts with the household staff. His condition makes social situations difficult for him. It's best if you simply do your job and avoid unnecessary interactions." Before Olivia could ask for clarification, Eleanor was gone, the click of her heels fading down the hallway. "Mommy, it's like a castle," Lily exclaimed, bouncing on the bed. Olivia smiled, genuine this time. "Yes, it is, but remember, we're here to work, and we need to be on our best behavior." "Is Mr. Thornwood a king?" "No, sweetie. He's just a very successful businessman who needs our help." 20 minutes later, Eleanor returned to escort them to what she called the children's wing. As they walked, she briefed Olivia on the basics. The twins, Sophia and Madeline, just turned 6. They've been through a great deal since losing their mother 2 years ago. Mr. Thornwood lost his sight in the same accident that claimed his wife's life. It was devastating for everyone. Olivia's heart clenched. "I understand loss," she said quietly. Eleanor stopped abruptly, turning to face her. "Do you?" Then perhaps you'll understand this. Those girls need stability and care, not pity. The previous 3 nannies failed because they couldn't handle the unique challenges of this household. Before Olivia could respond, they reached a sunny room filled with books, toys, and child-sized furniture. 2 identical little girls sat at a table, picking at their lunches. They wore matching blue dresses, their blonde hair styled in identical ponytails, yet something about their postures struck Olivia as fundamentally different. "Girls," Eleanor announced, "this is Miss Bennet, your new nanny, and this is her daughter Lily." One of the twins, Olivia couldn't tell which, immediately slid from her chair and approached, scrutinizing them with intelligent blue eyes. "Are you going to leave too?" she demanded, hands on her hips. "The last one only stayed for 2 weeks." "Sophia," Eleanor admonished, "mind your manners." So this was Sophia, the more outspoken one. Olivia knelt to the child's level. "I don't plan on leaving," she said gently. "Lily and I are looking forward to getting to know both of you." Sophia's eyes narrowed skeptically. "Everyone says that." "Then they go away." The other twin, Madeline, remained at the table, watching silently, her expression unreadable. Lily, usually shy with strangers, cautiously approached her. "I like your dress," Lily offered. "Blue is my favorite color too." Madeline didn't respond, but her shoulders relaxed slightly. After lunch, Eleanor continued the tour, explaining the rigid schedule the household adhered to. "The girls have tutors who come in for their education. You'll be responsible for their care outside of lesson times. Mr. Thornwood rarely joins them, but when he does, you are to make yourself scarce unless explicitly asked to stay." Later that afternoon, Olivia was organizing the girls' playroom when she felt a presence behind her. Turning, she found herself face to face with a tall, imposing figure. Even without Eleanor's briefing, she would have recognized Ethan Thornwood from the business magazines that had featured him before his retreat from public life. Despite his unseeing eyes, his stance was commanding, his features sculpted and handsome beneath the shadow of grief that seemed to cling to him. "Mr. Thornwood," she said, startled, "I didn't hear you come in." "When you lose one sense, the others compensate," he replied, his voice deep and measured. "You must be Olivia Bennet." "Yes, sir." He stood motionless, his gaze fixed somewhere past her shoulder. "Eleanor speaks highly of your qualifications. I trust you'll provide the stability my daughters need." "I'll do my very best," Olivia assured. Him, struck by the formal rigidity of his posture, the careful distance he maintained. "See that you do." He turned to leave, then paused. "My daughters are all I have left, Miss Bennet. Their care is not a responsibility I entrust lightly." As he navigated his way out with practiced precision, Olivia couldn't help but notice the tension in his shoulders, the way his hand briefly touched the doorframe, not for guidance, but almost as if reassuring himself of the solidity of his surroundings. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, Olivia stood by the window watching the rain continue to fall. The grounds of Thornwood Estate stretched into darkness, much like the uncertainty of the path ahead. She thought of the twins, Sophia's defiance and Madeline's silence, and of their father, trapped in both physical and emotional darkness. For the first time since Ryan's accident, Olivia felt something beyond grief and fear. She felt purpose. These children needed her, perhaps even more than Lily did. And maybe, just maybe, in helping them heal, she might find a way to heal herself. What she couldn't know as she finally turned away from the window was that someone was watching the light in her window from another wing of the house, unseeing. Eyes turned toward a distant glow, a hand resting against cool glass, wondering about the stranger who had entered their fractured lives. By the end of her first week at Thornwood Estate, Olivia had established a tentative routine with the twins. Each morning brought new challenges, particularly with Sophia, whose resistance manifested in subtle rebellions, accidentally spilling juice on Olivia's lap, hiding Lily's teddy bear, or flatly refusing to participate in activities. Madeline, meanwhile, observed everything with quiet intensity, speaking only when necessary, and flinching at unexpected touches. After putting the girls to bed one evening, Olivia encountered Eleanor in the hallway, tablet in hand, ever the efficient. gatekeeper of the Thornwood household. "The girls seem to be adjusting to you better than expected," Eleanor noted, though her tone suggested this was merely an observation, not a compliment. "However, Mr. Thornwood has concerns about Sophia's behavior during her piano lesson today." Olivia sighed. "She refused to practice. I tried everything, but—" "Mr. Thornwood doesn't want excuses, Ms. Bennet. He wants results." Eleanor's expression softened marginally. "Look, I understand the challenges. Those girls have been through more than any child should, but you need to establish authority quickly, or you'll lose them entirely." As Eleanor walked away, Olivia leaned against the wall, exhaustion washing over her. She heard soft footsteps and turned to find Lily approaching in her pajamas. "Mommy, are Sophia and Maddie mad at me?" Lily asked, her lower lip trembling. Olivia knelt and embraced her daughter. "No, sweetie. They're just sad inside, and sometimes when people are sad, they don't know how to be friends. Like you were sad after Daddy went away." The innocent question landed like a blow. "Yes," Olivia whispered. "Like that." Later that night, unable to sleep, Olivia wandered to the kitchen for tea. The mansion was eerily quiet, shadowy corners illuminated only by strategic nightlights, installed, she assumed, to help Mr. Thornwood navigate his home. She startled when she saw a figure already seated at the kitchen island, Mr. Thornwood himself, his hands wrapped around a mug, his unseeing eyes directed toward the large windows overlooking the gardens. "I'm sorry," Olivia said quickly. "I didn't mean to intrude." "It's your kitchen too while you're here," he replied, not turning his head. After a moment he asked, "Trouble sleeping, Miss Bennet?" "New environments," she explained, moving cautiously to prepare her tea. "It takes me a while to adjust." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I understand adjustment periods all too well." Perhaps it was the lateness of the hour, or the unexpected intimacy of finding him alone, but Olivia felt emboldened. "Mr. Thornwood, I want to be honest. I'm struggling with Sophia. I know she's testing me, but I'm not sure how to reach her." For several seconds, he was silent, and Olivia feared she'd overstepped. Then he sighed, a sound laden with more emotion than she'd heard from him before. "My daughters are mirror images in appearance only, Miss Bennet. Before the accident, Sophia was our little diplomat, charming, social, always mediating between her more sensitive sister and the world." He traced the rim of his mug with an index finger. "After we lost Victoria, their mother, Sophia became protective of Madeline, but also angry. So very angry. She blames you," Olivia realized aloud, then immediately regretted her bluntness. To her surprise, Ethan nodded. "She has every right to. I was driving the car." The confession hung in the air between them. Olivia searched for a response that wouldn't sound like empty sympathy. "Children often need someone to blame when their world falls apart," she finally said. "Lily still occasionally gets angry at her father for leaving us, even though—" She trailed off, unwilling to equate her loss with his. "Even though he didn't choose to go," Ethan finished for her. "Eleanor mentioned your circumstances. I'm sorry for your loss." "As I am for yours," Olivia replied softly. For a moment, they sat in companionable silence, two people acquainted with grief. "Sometimes," Ethan said carefully, "I think I lost more than my sight and my wife that day. I lost my ability to see my daughters, truly see them, their expressions, their growth, the subtle changes." He shook his head. "How do you parent children you can't see?" The vulnerability in his question caught Olivia off guard. This wasn't the distant formal employer she'd encountered before. This was a father struggling with impossible circumstances. "With her respect, Mr. Thornwood, perhaps that's exactly what they need, to be heard rather than seen." He turned toward her voice, his unseeing gaze disconcertingly direct. "An interesting perspective, Ms. Bennet." Before she could respond, footsteps approached the kitchen, and Eleanor appeared in the doorway, surprise flickering across her features before she composed herself. "Ethan," she said, using his first name with a familiarity that made Olivia aware of her own formality. "You have an early conference call with Tokyo. You should be resting." The moment of openness vanished, and Mr. Thornwood's professional demeanor returned as he stood, orienting himself with a light touch to the counter. "Of course. Good night, Miss Bennet." As he left with Eleanor guiding him subtly, Olivia couldn't help noticing the way Eleanor's hand rested on his arm, the protective stance she took beside him. There was history there, something deeper than a professional relationship. The next day brought an unexpected development. While supervising the twins' outdoor playtime, Olivia noticed Madeline watching Lily drawing with sidewalk chalk. After several minutes of observation, Madeline silently approached and sat beside Lily, who immediately offered her a piece of blue chalk. To Olivia's astonishment, Madeline accepted it and began to draw. Within minutes, the two girls were working together on an elaborate chalk garden, Lily chattering happily while Madeline responded with nods or single words. Sophia watched from the swing set, her expression stormy. When Olivia approached her, the girl scowled. "I hate chalk, it gets everywhere." "That's okay," Olivia said, sitting on the adjacent swing. "We all like different things." Sophia kicked at the ground. "Maddie doesn't really like chalk either. She just wants to be like your daughter." "Is that a bad thing?" "You're going to leave," Sophia stated flatly, "and then Maddie will be sad again." Olivia recognized the fear beneath the hostility. "Sophia, I know adults haven't been very reliable in your life lately, but I'm not going anywhere." That's what Miss Jenkins said too, and Miss Taylor, and then they left. "Can I tell you a secret?" Olivia leaned closer. "I need this job. Lily and I need a home. So even if things get tough, I have every reason to stay and work things out." Sophia studied her face, searching for deception. "Daddy doesn't talk to us much anymore. Even when he's here, he's not really here." The simple observation contained volumes of hurt. "Sometimes," Olivia said carefully, "when people are in pain, they don't know how to connect with others, even the people they love most. Because he can't see us? I think it's more than that. He can't see himself either. The person he used to be, the father he wants to be." Sophia kicked higher on the swing, processing this. "Can you fix him?" The question broke Olivia's heart. "Oh, honey, I'm just a nanny," she said gently. "But maybe we can all help each other find our way." Later that afternoon, Olivia was helping the girls with a craft project when Eleanor entered the playroom, her usual composure slightly ruffled. "Ms. Bennet, Mr. Thornwood would like to see you in his study immediately." Her tone suggested this was unusual. "I'll watch the children." Mr. Thornwood's study was a masculine space of leather and mahogany, walls lined with books he could no longer read, diplomas and awards he could no longer see. He sat behind an imposing desk, his fingers moving over what Olivia recognized as financial statements in Braille. "You wanted to see me, Mr. Thornwood?" He motioned for her to sit. "I received an interesting call from Mrs. Abernathy today, Madeline's speech therapist. She reports that Madeline spoke more in today's session than she has in months." "That's wonderful news," Olivia said, genuinely pleased. Indeed, when asked what changed, Madeline mentioned Lily's mom and drawing gardens. He leaned forward. "Miss Bennet, I've had specialists working with Madeline for over a year with minimal progress. What exactly did you do?" "Nothing special," Olivia admitted. "I just let the girls be. Sometimes the most healing moments come without intervention." Ethan's expression was unreadable. "Well, whatever you're doing, continue. This is the first positive development we've had in some time." He hesitated, then added, "Thank you." The simple acknowledgement felt like a significant victory. As Olivia turned to leave, he called after her. "Miss Bennet, the girls have been asking to visit the lake house this weekend. It's about an hour from here. Eleanor normally accompanies us, but she'll be attending her nephew's wedding. Would you be comfortable handling the trip? It would mean additional hours, of course." "Of course," Olivia agreed, though the mention of a lake sent an involuntary shiver through her. Lakes now reminded her of where Ryan had disappeared. "Good, Eleanor will brief you on the details." Outside the study, Olivia nearly collided with a man she hadn't seen before. Tall, impeccably dressed in an expensive suit, with silver hair and calculating eyes. "Ah, you must be the new nanny," he said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Victor Hargrove, Ethan's attorney and oldest friend. He extended a manicured hand. Olivia Bennett, she replied, shaking his hand briefly. How are you finding our little arrangement here? Challenging, I imagine. Something in his tone put Olivia on edge. The girls are wonderful, she said diplomatically. We're getting along just fine. Victor chuckled. Diplomatic, I like that, but between us... He leaned closer. Ethan's not exactly father of the year, is he? Those poor girls, practically orphans, with a blind father who can barely manage. His own affairs, much less theirs. Olivia stiffened. Mr. Thornwood is doing his best under difficult circumstances. Of course, Victor backtracked smoothly. I'm just concerned about the children. We all want what's best for them, don't we? He checked his watch. I should get in there. Ethan and I have important matters to discuss. Financial matters, he added with a significant look. Always complicated when there's so much at stake. As he disappeared into Ethan's study, Olivia felt a distinct unease. Something about Victor Hargrove felt wrong. The way he spoke about Ethan, the dismissive tone when discussing the girls' welfare. She shook off the feeling and headed back to the playroom, unaware that this brief encounter with Victor would mark the beginning of complications she couldn't yet imagine. That night, as she helped Sophia prepare for bed, the girl asked unexpectedly, "Are we really going to the lake?" "House?" "Yes, this weekend," Olivia confirmed, helping her with her pajama buttons. Sophia's expression brightened. "That's where Mommy used to take us swimming. Daddy hasn't let us go back since." She trailed off, then added in a smaller voice, "I didn't think he'd ever take us there again." As Olivia tucked her in, she noticed something different in Sophia's demeanor, a fragile hope. She leaned down and kissed the child's forehead, a gesture she'd never attempted before. "Sweet dreams, Sophia." To her surprise, Sophia reached up and wrapped her arms around Olivia's neck in a brief, fierce hug. "Good night, Miss Bennett." It was a small victory, but as Olivia checked on Lily before retiring to her own room, she felt a glimmer of progress. The weekend at the lake house might be just what this fractured family needed, a chance to confront painful memories and perhaps begin to forge new ones. What she couldn't know was that Victor Hargrove was at that very moment proposing something to Ethan that would threaten everything, a legal maneuver that, if successful, would change all their lives irrevocably. The Thornwood Lake House was a rustic yet elegant retreat, nestled among towering pine trees, its wide deck extending over the crystalline water. As Olivia parked the SUV in the circular driveway, she noted how different this place felt from the main estate. Warmer somehow, less imposing despite its obvious luxury. "We're here," Lily exclaimed, unbuckling her seatbelt in excitement. In the back seat, the twins reacted with contrasting emotions. Sophia immediately pressed her face to the window, drinking in the familiar sight with obvious joy. Madeline, however, shrank into her seat, her small hands clutching the stuffed rabbit she'd brought along. "It looks exactly the same," Sophia whispered half to herself. Mr. Thornwood sat silently in the passenger seat, his posture tense. This trip clearly held significance beyond a simple weekend getaway. Before leaving that morning, Eleanor had pulled Olivia aside with uncharacteristic concern. This lake house was Victoria's favorite place, she'd explained. Ethan hasn't been back since it happened. The fact that he's willing to go now, especially without me there as buffer. She'd shaken her head. Just be prepared for emotional turbulence. Now, as Olivia helped unload their luggage, she watched Mr. Thornwood step cautiously from the car. He paused, inhaling deeply. "Pine and jasmine," he murmured. "Victoria planted jasmine all along the south side." He oriented himself with surprising confidence, making his way toward the house with his cane barely touching the familiar path. The girls followed, Sophia racing ahead to unlock the door with a key she proudly produced from her pocket, while Madeline trailed behind, still clutching her rabbit. Inside, the house was a perfect blend of luxury and comfort. Plush sofas arranged around a stone fireplace, floor-to-ceiling windows capturing breathtaking views of the lake, and family photographs lining the hallway leading to the bedrooms. Olivia felt a pang as she noticed Mr. Thornwood's fingers lightly brushing these frames as he passed, mapping memories he could no longer see. "The girls' room is the second door on the right," he instructed. "You and Lily can take the guest suite at the end of the hall. My room is upstairs." His voice carried forced neutrality, but Olivia sensed the effort it took for him to maintain composure in this place filled with echoes of his past life. After settling the children, Olivia busied herself preparing lunch, while the girls explored the property with the enthusiasm only children can muster after being confined to a car. Through the kitchen window, she watched as Sophia showed Lily a tire swing hanging from a massive oak tree, while Madeline sat nearby, methodically arranging pine cones in a circle. "They seem happy here," Mr. Thornwood's voice came from behind her, startling Olivia. She hadn't heard him approach, a disconcerting reminder of how silently he moved through familiar spaces. "Yes," she agreed, turning to face him, "especially Sophia. She's like a different child." He nodded, his unseeing gaze directed toward the window as if he could see the scene outside. "Victoria used to say this place was magical, that the lake air washed away the complications of city life." A sad smile touched his lips. "I thought it was sentimental nonsense until I lost the ability to see it. Now I'd give anything for just one more glimpse." The raw honesty of his statement caught Olivia off guard. In that moment, he wasn't the intimidating millionaire employer or the distant father. He was simply a man grieving all he had lost. "The girls are at the tire swing," she found herself saying. "Sophia is showing Lily how to twist it to make it spin. She's laughing, really laughing, not the polite laugh she uses at home. Madeline is. Sitting under the blue spruce, arranging pine cones in a perfect circle. Her face is serious but not sad, and the sunlight is filtering through the trees, creating these beautiful dappled patterns on the grass." Ethan stood perfectly still, absorbing her description. "Thank you," he said finally, his voice barely audible, "for seeing them for me." That evening, after a dinner more relaxed than any they'd shared at the main house, Mr. Thornwood surprised everyone by suggesting they make s'mores at the fire pit near the lake. As darkness settled around them, the golden glow of the fire created a magical atmosphere. Even Madeline giggled as Lily's marshmallow caught fire, turning into a charred, gooey mess. "Daddy, remember when Mom tried to make giant s'mores with those huge cookies?" Sophia asked, her voice both wistful and tentatively happy. A genuine smile spread across Ethan's face. "And the chocolate melted all over her favorite white sweater," he finished. "She was so upset until you girls decorated the stain with sprinkles and called it fashion." "You laughed a lot back then," Sophia said quietly. The observation hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Ethan reached out, his hand finding Sophia's shoulder with surprising accuracy. "I did," he acknowledged. "I'm trying to remember how." Later, after the children were asleep, Olivia found herself drawn to the deck. The night was clear, stars reflecting on the lake's surface like scattered diamonds. She wrapped her cardigan tighter against the slight chill, lost in thoughts of her own past. Happier times with Ryan, summer evenings not unlike this one. "May I join you?" Ethan's voice disrupted her reverie. He stood in the doorway, a bottle of wine and 2 glasses in his hands. "Of course," she replied, surprised by the gesture. He navigated to the chair beside her with practiced ease, pouring wine with careful precision. "To adaptability," he said, raising his glass in her general direction. "To adaptability," she echoed, clinking her glass against his. "You seem different here," she observed. "More at peace." Ethan sipped his wine thoughtfully. "Victoria would say I'm finally letting myself feel instead of think." He turned his face toward the lake. "We met in college. Did Eleanor tell you that?" Brilliant, beautiful Victoria. She could have had anyone, but she chose the awkward economics major with a chip on his shoulder. "You built an empire together," Olivia said, remembering the business profiles she'd read about Thornwood Enterprises. "An empire that means nothing without her to share it." His grip tightened on the stem of his wineglass. "After the accident, I withdrew from everything, the business, the girls, life itself. It seemed easier that way." "Grief is exhausting," Olivia offered. "After Ryan disappeared, There were days I could barely get out of bed. If it hadn't been for Lily. Children? Keep us tethered to life, Ethan agreed, even when we're determined to drift away. He hesitated, then added, Victor thinks I'm incapable of providing for my daughters properly. He's filed a petition for temporary guardianship. The revelation stunned Olivia. That's absurd. On what grounds? My disability, my emotional detachment, as he puts it, the fact that I've gone through multiple nannies. His bitter laugh held no humor. He has documentation from therapists, doctors, even former staff members. But he's your friend, your attorney. Why would he do this? Ethan swirled his wine, the liquid catching moonlight. Victor has always coveted what was mine, my company, my success, even Victoria at one point. His voice hardened. He's been my friend since college, but I've always sensed his resentment beneath the surface. Now, with control of the girls, he'd gained significant control over their trust funds, millions in assets that would sustain his lifestyle quite comfortably. That's despicable, Olivia said, anger rising on behalf of the twins and their father. It's business, Ethan replied flatly. And I've given him ammunition. I haven't been the father they deserve since Victoria. He trailed off, then continued more quietly. Since I failed them both. The accident wasn't your fault, Olivia said instinctively. Ethan's unseeing gaze seemed to penetrate her. How would you know that? She faltered. I just meant... It was raining, he interrupted, his voice distant. Just like the night you arrived at Thornwood. Victoria wanted to drive, but I insisted I was fine. We argued about it. I was distracted, missed a curve in the road. His hand trembled slightly. When I woke up in the hospital, they told me she was gone, and my eyes were irreparably damaged. A fitting punishment, don't you think? Forever blind to the world I destroyed. Olivia reached out impulsively, covering his hand with hers. Ethan, she said, using his first name without thinking. Accidents. Just that. Accidents. Horrible, life-changing, but not punishments. For a long moment he didn't respond. Then he turned his hand beneath hers, their fingers intertwining. How do you forgive yourself? He asked, the question barely audible, above the gentle lapping of the lake against the shore. One day at a time, she answered honestly. Some days you can't, but you keep going, keep trying, for the ones who still need you. They sat in companionable silence, hands still joined, until the distant sound of a child's cry broke the moment. Madeline's frightened voice called out from inside the house. Olivia stood quickly. Nightmare, probably. She's had a few since I started. Ethan rose as well. I should go. We both should, Olivia suggested gently. She might need her father more than her nanny right now. They found Madeline sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face. Sophia awake beside her, stroking her twin's hair with unusual tenderness. She dreamed about the water again, Sophia explained as they entered. Ethan moved toward the sound of his daughter's distress, sitting carefully on the edge of the bed. Maddie, he said softly, I'm here. To Olivia's surprise, Madeline launched herself into her father's arms, burying her face against his chest. More surprising still was Ethan's reaction. He held her close, rocking slightly, murmuring reassurances with none of his usual restraint. The water won't hurt you, he promised. I won't let anything hurt you ever again. Olivia backed quietly toward the door, feeling like an intruder on this private moment of reconnection, but Sophia called out, Miss Bennet, stay, please. So she stayed, sitting on Sophia's bed, the four of them forming an impromptu midnight gathering. Eventually, Madeline's sobs subsided, and she looked up at her father with reddened eyes. Can you sing Mom's song? She asked in a small voice, the longest sentence Olivia had heard from her. Ethan looked stricken for a moment, then nodded. In a rich baritone that betrayed years of disuse, he began to sing a gentle lullaby. Sophia joined in, her clear voice harmonizing with her father's. After a moment of hesitation, Madeline added her soft voice to the chorus. Watching them, Olivia felt her own eyes grow damp. This broken family was finding its way back to one another, despite the pain and obstacles between them. In that moment, something shifted in the atmosphere of the lake house, as if long-held breaths were finally being released. When the song ended, Ethan kissed each twin on the forehead, a gesture so natural yet so significant given his previous distance. "Sleep now," he told them gently. "Tomorrow we'll have pancakes for breakfast just like we used to." "With blueberry faces?" Sophia asked hopefully. "With blueberry faces," he confirmed with a smile. Back in the hallway, Ethan stood, for a moment, disoriented not by his blindness but by the rush of emotions. "I haven't sung that song since Victoria," he murmured. "You have a beautiful voice," Olivia offered. "All three of you do." "Thank you for suggesting I go to her," he said. "I've been avoiding their pain because it mirrors my own too closely. But tonight you were their father first and a grieving husband second," Olivia finished for him. "That's all they need from you, Ethan, just to be present in their pain as well as their joy." He reached out, his hand finding her shoulder. "You've given me more than childcare, Olivia. You've given me perspective, reminded me of what matters. The intimacy of the moment, the use of her first name, the genuine gratitude in his voice, all of it overwhelmed Olivia. She was aware of a dangerous warmth spreading through her chest, feelings she wasn't ready to acknowledge. "Good night, Ethan," she said softly, stepping back from his touch. "Try to get some rest." In her room, Olivia checked on Lily, fast asleep, and oblivious to the night's drama. She stood at the window, watching moonlight ripple across the lake's surface. Something significant had happened tonight. Boundaries crossed, walls lowered. She thought of Ethan's hand in hers, the vulnerability in his voice as he shared his guilt, the way he'd reached for his daughter without hesitation. And she thought of Victor Hargrove's calculating eyes, his thinly veiled threat disguised as concern for the twins. If he succeeded in taking the girls from their father, the fragile healing beginning in this house would be shattered. The next day dawned clear and bright. True to his promise, Ethan made pancakes with Olivia's assistance, arranging blueberries into faces that delighted the children. The morning passed in a haze of simple pleasures, board games on the deck, a scavenger hunt around the property, stories by the lakeside. After lunch, Sophia approached her father with determination. "Daddy, can we go in the rowboat, please? Mom always took us this time of year to see the water lilies." Ethan froze, fork suspended midway to his mouth. Fear flashed across his features. "Sophia, I don't think—" "I'll be there," Olivia interjected. "I'm a strong swimmer, and we'll have life jackets. The lake seems very calm today." She saw the struggle play out on his face, the fear warring with the desire to give his daughters this connection to their mother. Finally, he nodded. "All right. But I'm coming too." Soon they were all settled in the sturdy wooden rowboat. Ethan, hand Olivia on the center bench with oars, the three girls in the bow, giggles and excitement, momentarily overwhelming any fears. As they glided away from the dock, Olivia noticed Ethan's white-knuckled grip on the gunwale. "The lake is smooth as glass," she narrated for him, keeping her voice low. "We're about 20 feet from shore now. Ahead, maybe 50 yards, there's a cluster of water lilies just starting to bloom, white petals with yellow centers." His grip loosened slightly. Victoria would bring back one perfect lily each time, put it in a crystal bowl in the center of the dining table. As they approached the lily pads, a magnificent blue heron took flight from the reeds, startling everyone with the sudden sweep of its wings. "Oh!" Madeline exclaimed, a rare spontaneous outburst. "Bluebird!" "A great blue heron," Ethan corrected gently. "Your mother loved them, said they were symbols of self-reflection and independence." "I remember," Sophia said softly. She said, "They stand still in the water for so long because they're thinking important thoughts." The moment was perfect. Sunlight dancing on water, children's faces alight with wonder, memories of love rather than loss. Then Lily, in her excitement to see a frog leaping between lily pads, stood suddenly, rocking the boat violently. "Lily!" Olivia called out in alarm. Everything happened in a terrible instant, the boat tilting precariously, Lily losing her balance, the splash as she hit the water. Madeline screamed, a sound of pure terror. Before Olivia could react, Ethan had launched himself over the side, moving with instinctive precision toward the sound of the splash. "Ethan, no!" Olivia cried, but he was already in the water, swimming with powerful strokes. Lily surfaced sputtering but unharmed in her life jacket, just as Ethan reached her. Olivia steadied the boat, heart pounding, as Ethan guided Lily back with one arm. With Olivia's help, they managed to get both Lily and Ethan back into the boat, everyone soaking and shaken but safe. "I'm sorry, Mommy," Lily wailed, tears streaming down her face. "I just wanted to see the frog better." "It's okay, sweetheart," Olivia soothed, wrapping her daughter in a towel she'd brought along. "You're safe now." Ethan sat dripping and panting, his expensive clothes plastered to his body. But his face held no anger, only relief. "Is everyone all right?" he asked. "We're all fine," Olivia assured him. "Thanks to you." He nodded, running a hand through his wet hair. "Let's head back." As Olivia rowed them toward shore, she noticed something remarkable. Madeline had moved to sit beside her father, her small hand resting on his knee in a gesture of unmistakable comfort. More surprising still was Sophia's expression as she watched them, not jealousy, but a cautious hope. Back at the house, after everyone had dried off and changed clothes, Olivia found Ethan on the deck, a tumbler of whiskey in his hand. The afternoon sun was beginning its descent, casting long shadows across the lawn. "That was quite the heroic rescue," she said, joining him, "especially for someone who can't see." He gave a self-deprecating smile. "Instinct. I heard the splash, and moved. I didn't stop to think about the impossibility of a blind man finding a child in a lake." "Sometimes thinking too much is the enemy of action," Olivia observed. "Is Lily all right?" "Perfectly fine. More worried about ruining the boat ride than anything else." She hesitated, then added, "Madeline seems different with you now." Ethan nodded slowly. "Fear has a way of stripping away pretense. When I went into that water—" He took a sip of his whiskey. "For the first time since the accident, I wasn't thinking about what I couldn't do, only what I had to do." "The girls saw that too," Olivia said. "They saw their father, not a man defined by his limitations." They lapsed into comfortable silence, the events of the day settling around them like the gradually lengthening shadows. Finally, Ethan spoke again, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "Victor called while you were getting the children settled. The hearing for temporary guardianship has been scheduled for next Friday." His jaw tightened. "He's expedited the process, claiming concern about my increasingly erratic behavior." "That's ridiculous," Olivia protested. "What evidence could he possibly have?" "Apparently, bringing the girls to the site of their mother's accident constitutes emotional recklessness," Ethan said bitterly. "Never mind that they've been asking to come here for months." Olivia frowned. "How did he even know we were here?" "That's the question, isn't it?" Ethan's expression darkened. "Someone must have told him. Eleanor knew our plans, of course, and a few members of the household staff." A troubling thought occurred to Olivia. "The timing seems suspicious, just when you're reconnecting with the girls." "Victor has always had impeccable timing," Ethan agreed grimly, "and sources everywhere." Olivia's mind raced, piecing together conversations, observations, subtle hints she'd dismissed. "Ethan," she said slowly, "I think there's more to Victor's petition than money or control. The way he spoke about you, about the girls, and it seemed personal." "It is personal," Ethan confirmed. "Victoria chose me over him in college. He never forgave either of us for that. When she died," he swallowed hard. "At the funeral, he told me it should have been me instead of her, that the universe had made a mistake." "That's horrible," Olivia whispered. "It's Victor," Ethan said simply. "Behind the polished exterior is a man who believes he deserves everything I have. Now, with me incapacitated, as he puts it, he sees his opportunity." The setting sun cast Ethan's face in harsh relief, highlighting the determined set of his jaw. Seeing him now, father, protector, fighter, Olivia could scarcely reconcile this man with the distant formal figure she'd first encountered at Thornwood Estate. "We won't let him win," she said firmly, surprising herself with the intensity of her commitment. "The girls need you, not him." Ethan turned toward her, his unseeing eyes somehow finding hers with unerring accuracy. "We," he repeated, the single word laden with meaning. "Yes," Olivia said simply. "We." As twilight settled over the lake house, neither of them could know that Victor Hargrove was at that moment reviewing photographs taken surreptitiously that very afternoon, images of their moonlit conversation, the shared wine, Ethan's hand finding Olivia's shoulder in the hallway. Evidence, he would claim, of a man so consumed by new romance that he was neglecting his traumatized daughters. The battle for the Thornwood twins had only just begun, and Olivia had unwittingly placed herself at its center. The atmosphere at Thornwood Estate changed dramatically after their return from the lake house. Where once silence and formality had reigned, there were now bedtime stories read in Ethan's deep voice, impromptu piano duets with the twins, and family dinners where conversation flowed more naturally. The girls, especially Madeline, seemed to blossom under their father's renewed attention, while Sophia's defiance softened into the occasional eye-roll of a normal 6-year-old. For Olivia, however, each of these heartwarming developments was shadowed by the approaching guardianship. Hearing. She'd become more than just a nanny to the Thornwood family. She was now an ally in their fight to stay together, a role that both honored and terrified her. 3 days before the hearing, Eleanor cornered Olivia in the kitchen, her usual composure, noticeably strained. "We need to talk," she said, closing the door for privacy. "About Victor Hargrove." "What about him?" Olivia asked cautiously. Eleanor's eyes darted toward the door before she continued in a hushed tone. "I've worked for the Thornwood family for 15 years. I was here when Ethan and Victoria were newly married, when the twins were born. Through all of it." She straightened her already impeccable posture. "What I'm about to tell you could cost me my job, but I can't stay silent anymore." Olivia set down the lunch she'd been preparing. "I'm listening." "Victor isn't just after the girls' trust funds," Eleanor said. "He wants Thornwood Enterprises. The company bylaws state that if Ethan is declared legally incompetent or loses custody of his children, control of the company goes to the board of directors, a board where Victor holds significant influence." "That seems like an odd stipulation," Olivia observed. "Victoria insisted on it," Eleanor explained. "She wanted assurance that if anything happened to both of them, the girls' inheritance would be protected by multiple parties, not just one guardian. She never imagined it could be weaponized against Ethan. Does Ethan know this?" Eleanor nodded grimly. "He knows, but he's more concerned about the girls than the company. You've seen the change in him since the lake house. He's fighting for his daughters, not his fortune." "Why are you telling me this?" Olivia asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. "Because Victor sees you as a threat," Eleanor said bluntly. "You've helped heal this family in weeks when therapists and specialists failed for years. That undermines his entire case." She hesitated, then added, "And because he's using you to attack Ethan." "Using me? How?" Eleanor produced an envelope from her jacket pocket. "These were delivered to my office this morning. Victor's Concerned Friend Act doesn't extend to maintaining privacy, apparently." Inside were photographs, Olivia and Ethan on the deck at the lake house, hands intertwined, Ethan's hand on her shoulder in the hallway, the two of them laughing. Over breakfast with the children, innocent moments captured and reframed as something inappropriate. He's claiming Ethan is engaging in a rebound relationship with the nanny while neglecting his daughter's emotional needs, Eleanor explained, disgust evident in her voice. That he's using you as a replacement for Victoria without considering the psychological impact on the twins. Heat rushed to Olivia's cheeks, part embarrassment, part righteous anger. "That's absurd. There's nothing inappropriate between us. We're friends, colleagues at most." Eleanor's knowing look suggested she wasn't entirely convinced. The truth hardly matters in situations like this. Perception is everything. Victor will present these to the judge as evidence of Ethan's instability and poor judgment. The implications hit Olivia like a physical blow. He's going to use me to take those girls away from their father. Unless we counter with something more compelling, Eleanor agreed. Which is why I need to know. Are you willing to testify about the changes you've witnessed in this family? To stand up to Victor in court? Of course, Olivia replied without hesitation. But will that be enough? Eleanor's expression softened. Slightly. It might be. You've been here nearly 2 months now. That's longer than any nanny since the accident. The court will take that stability into account. She gathered the photographs back into the envelope. But be prepared. Victor will try to discredit you, your past, your qualifications, your intentions. My past, Olivia echoed, a chill running down her spine. He's thorough, Eleanor said simply. He'll have investigated you the moment you became important to Ethan and the girls. That evening, after putting the children to bed, Olivia found Ethan in his study, fingers moving rapidly over documents in Braille. He looked up at her soft knock, a smile briefly lighting his features. Olivia, come in. She took the seat across from his desk, struggling to find the right words. Eleanor showed. Hand me the photographs, she finally said. Ethan's expression hardened. I'm sorry about that. Victor's tactics have always been underhanded, but this crosses a line. I'm worried about how it might affect the hearing, Olivia admitted. If the judge thinks that you and I... Let them think what they want, Ethan said firmly. I won't apologize for finding friendship and understanding when I needed it most. He set aside his documents. But I understand if you're uncomfortable, if you want to distance yourself from this situation. No, Olivia interrupted. That's not it at all. I just don't want to be the reason you lose your daughters. Ethan's unseeing gaze seemed to find her with uncanny precision. Olivia, you're the reason I might keep them. He leaned forward. Before you came, I was exactly what Victor is claiming, distant, detached, barely functioning as a father. You changed that. You showed me how to connect with them again, how to move forward without forgetting the past. His words warmed something deep within Olivia, but anxiety still gnawed at her. Victor will try to use my situation against you. 2. My financial troubles after Ryan disappeared, moving from job to job. Let him try, Ethan said with surprising vehemence. Anyone who has seen you with the girls, with Lily, knows what an exceptional mother and caregiver you are. The compliment caught her off guard, bringing unexpected tears to her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. They sat in companionable silence for a moment before Ethan spoke again. There's something I've been wanting to ask you. When we win this case, would you consider staying on? Not just as a nanny, but in a more permanent capacity. Olivia's breath caught. What exactly are you asking? Ethan seemed to choose his words carefully. I'm asking if you and Lily would consider making Thornwood your permanent home. The girls adore you both, and He hesitated. I've come to depend on your perspective, your strength. This house has felt more like a home since you arrived than it has in years. Ethan, You don't need to answer now, he added quickly. I understand it's a significant decision. I just wanted you to know that whatever happens at the hearing, you have a place here. Both of you. Before Olivia could respond, the study door burst open and Sophia appeared in her pajamas, eyes wide with distress. Daddy, Maddie's crying and she won't stop. Ethan was on his feet immediately. What happened? She heard Eleanor talking on the phone about Uncle Victor taking us away, Sophia explained, her voice trembling. Is that true? Is he going to take us away from you? The direct question clearly caught Ethan unprepared. He knelt to his daughter's level, finding her shoulders with gentle hands. Come here, sweetheart. Let's go talk to Maddie together. They found Madeline curled in a tight ball on her bed, tears streaming silently down her face. Lily sat beside her, patting her back awkwardly in childish comfort. When Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, Madeline launched herself into his arms, a sob finally breaking free. I don't want to go, she cried, her voice clearer and stronger than Olivia had ever heard it. Please don't let him take us. Listen to me, both of you. Ethan said firmly, beckoning Sophia to join them. He gathered both girls close. "No one is taking you anywhere. Uncle Victor thinks he knows what's best for you, but he's wrong. I'm your father, and my place is with you, just as your place is with me." "But what if the judge says we have to go?" Sophia asked, practical even in her fear. Ethan's jaw set with determination. "Then we'll fight, we'll appeal, we'll do whatever it takes to stay together." He kissed the top of her head. "I've made many mistakes since we lost your mother, but I promise you this, I will never ever give up on our family." Olivia, watching from the doorway with Lily now sleepily leaning against her legs, felt her heart expand painfully in her chest. The man before her bore little resemblance to the distant, broken figure she'd met on her first day at Thornwood. That man had been lost in darkness. This one was fighting his way toward the light, guided by love for his daughters. The day of the hearing dawned bright and clear, a mockery of the tension that filled Thornwood Estate. Eleanor had arranged for Lily to spend the day with the household, Cook's granddaughter, allowing Olivia to attend without distraction. The twins would stay home with their regular tutor until called for, a strategy designed to minimize their anxiety. As they prepared to leave, Ethan emerged from his room in an impeccably tailored suit, his cane held with dignity rather than resignation. The change in his bearing was striking, shoulders back, chin raised, radiating a quiet confidence that transformed his entire presence. "You look ready for battle," Olivia observed, trying to keep her tone light despite her nerves. "That's exactly what this is," he replied, "and I intend to win." The family court was a stately building in downtown Boston, its marble corridors echoing with footsteps and hushed conversations. Victor Hargrove waited at the entrance, immaculate in an expensive suit, a solicitous smile plastered on his face that didn't reach his calculating eyes. "Ethan," he greeted, as if they were still friends meeting for lunch rather than adversaries, "in a custody battle. I wish it hadn't come to this, but you must understand I'm only thinking of the girls. Save it for the judge, Victor," Ethan replied coldly. "We both know what this is really about." Victor's gaze slid to Olivia, his smile turning condescending. "Ms. Bennett, how dedicated of you to be here." His emphasis made the word sound like an accusation. "I suppose the girls must have some comfort in this difficult time." Before Olivia could respond, their attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Jeanette Clark, whom Eleanor had recommended, appeared beside them. "Mr. Hargrove," she acknowledged briskly, "I believe we should all proceed inside. Judge Morgan doesn't appreciate theatrics in her hallway." Inside the courtroom, Olivia sat directly behind Ethan, close enough to see the tension in his shoulders as Victor's attorney presented their case. The arguments were exactly as Eleanor had predicted, Ethan's blindness making him incapable of proper supervision, his grief making him emotionally unavailable, and most damning, his inappropriate relationship with the nanny, suggesting poor judgment and instability. The photographs appeared on a large screen, innocent moments reframed as evidence of misconduct. Olivia felt her cheeks burn, as Victor's attorney suggested that Ethan had hired her not for her qualifications, but for her appearance, that he was using her as a replacement for his late wife, to the detriment of his daughter's psychological well-being. When Olivia was called to testify, she walked to the witness stand with legs that felt like water, acutely aware of Victor's predatory gaze following her progress. After she was sworn in, his attorney approached, all sympathetic smiles and reasonable tones. "Ms. Bennett, you've been employed at Thornwood Estate for approximately 2 months. Is that correct?" "Yes," Olivia confirmed. "And in that short time you've become quite close to Mr. Thornwood, haven't you?" She refused to be baited. "I've become close to the entire family. That's rather the point of being a live-in nanny." A few chuckles from the gallery were quickly silenced by the judge's stern look. Victor's attorney smiled thinly. "Indeed. And your own situation when you applied for this position, unemployed, nearly homeless, a widow with significant debt, didn't influence your eagerness to please your wealthy employer." Anger flashed through Olivia. "My personal circumstances have nothing to do with my care for Sophia and Madeline Thornwood, and for the record, I'm not a widow. My husband disappeared in a boating accident, but his body was never recovered. "My apologies," the attorney said insincerely. "A difficult situation, undoubtedly. Perhaps that shared experience of loss is what drew you and Mr. Thornwood together so rapidly." Before Olivia could answer, Jeanette Clark was on her feet. "Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is insinuating an improper relationship without evidence." "Sustained," Judge Morgan ruled. "Counsel, please stick to relevant questions about Ms. Bennett's observations of Mr. Thornwood's parenting." Frustrated but adaptable, Victor's attorney shifted tactics. "Ms. Bennett, in your professional opinion, can a blind man adequately supervise two active 6-year-old girls, especially considering one of them has selective mutism and the other has documented behavioral issues?" Olivia leaned forward. "In my professional opinion, Mr. Thornwood's blindness has nothing to do with his capacity to love, guide, and protect his daughters. I've witnessed him swim into a lake to save my daughter when she fell from a boat, something many sighted parents might not have managed so quickly." The questioning continued for nearly an hour. Each attempt to undermine her testimony met with calm, firm responses. When finally released from the stand, Olivia felt drained but satisfied that she'd spoken the truth. The twins were brought in briefly to speak with the judge in her chambers, their small faces solemn but composed. When they emerged, Madeline immediately went to her father, climbing onto his lap without hesitation, while Sophia stood protectively beside them, glaring at Victor with undisguised hostility. After they were escorted out by a court officer, Ethan himself took the stand. Without sight, he couldn't see the photographs displayed or the expressions of the court, but his testimony carried a raw honesty that filled the room. "I failed my daughters after their mother died," he admitted, openly. "I was lost in grief and self-pity, focused on what I couldn't do rather than what they needed. But that has changed." He turned his face toward where he knew the judge sat. "Your Honor, I can't see my daughters' faces. I can't read them bedtime stories from picture books or watch them perform in school plays. But I can listen to their voices and know their moods. I can create a home where they feel safe and loved. I can teach them resilience and courage in the face of loss." His voice strengthened. "Victor Hargrove would have you believe that my blindness makes me incapable, that my worth as a father is determined by my ability to see. But being a parent isn't about what you can or cannot do physically. It's about what you promise in your heart and keep with your actions. I promise to be there for my daughters every day, to put their needs above my own, to create a family that honors their mother's memory while building a new future together." The courtroom fell silent as he finished, the only sound the soft tap of his cane as he returned to his seat. Olivia reached forward impulsively, squeezing his shoulder in silent support. After closing arguments, Judge Morgan called a brief recess to consider her ruling. The tension in the waiting area was palpable, with Victor and his attorney huddled in whispered consultation while Ethan sat perfectly still, his expression unreadable. "Whatever happens," Olivia said softly, "you were magnificent in there. The girls would be proud." He reached for her hand, finding it unerringly. "Thank you for standing by us. No matter the outcome, I won't forget that." When they were called back into the courtroom, Judge Morgan's expression gave nothing away. She surveyed the assembled parties, her gaze lingering briefly on Victor before settling on Ethan. "In matters of custody and guardianship, this court is guided by one principle above all others: the best interests of the children involved," she began. "Mr. Hargrove has raised legitimate concerns about Mr. Thornwood's ability to provide adequate supervision given his visual impairment. However, capability as a parent extends far beyond physical limitations." She paused, reviewing her notes. "The testimony I've heard today, particularly from the Thornwood children themselves, paints a picture of a family in the process of healing. While Mr. Thornwood acknowledges his past shortcomings, he has demonstrated meaningful steps toward creating a stable, nurturing environment for his daughters." Victor shifted uncomfortably in his seat as she continued. "Moreover, the nature of Mr. Hargrove's petition raises concerning questions about motivation. The timing of this action, coinciding with Mr. Thornwood's renewed engagement as a father, suggests an agenda beyond simple concern for the children's welfare." Her gaze hardened. This court will not be used as a vehicle for personal vendettas or financial maneuvering, nor will it penalize a parent for having the wisdom to seek help when needed, whether from medical professionals, educational specialists, or qualified childcare providers like Ms. Bennett. Victor's face had turned an alarming shade of red, but he maintained his composure as Judge Morgan delivered her ruling. The petition for temporary guardianship is denied. Mr. Thornwood will retain full custody of his daughters, with the recommendation that he continue the positive changes observed by this court. Furthermore, she added, leveling a stern look at Victor, I am issuing a restraining order preventing Mr. Hargrove from approaching the Thornwood children without their father's explicit permission. This case is dismissed. The bang of her gavel was drowned out by Olivia's involuntary cry of relief. Ethan sat motionless for a moment, as if unable to believe the outcome, then turned to Jeanette Clark with a dazed expression. We won, he asked quietly. We won, she confirmed, gathering her papers with a satisfied smile. Decisively. Outside the courthouse, Eleanor waited with the twins, who immediately ran to their father when they saw him emerge. Ethan knelt, gathering them into a fierce embrace as they peppered him with questions. We're going home, he assured them. All of us. Together. Over their heads, his unseeing gaze found Olivia with uncanny accuracy. His smile, relieved, grateful, joyous, spoke volumes about the journey they'd shared and the possibilities that lay ahead. That evening, Thornwood Estate hummed with quiet celebration. The twins, exhausted by the emotional day, fell asleep early, curled together in Sophia's bed like they hadn't done since they were toddlers. Lily, sensing the lightened mood but not understanding its cause, bounced happily from room to room, until she too succumbed to sleep. Olivia found Ethan on the terrace, a glass of champagne in hand, his face tilted toward the night sky he couldn't see but clearly sensed. The stars are out, she told him, accepting the glass he offered. Thousands of them. Victoria used to describe constellations to me. He remembered. Not just their shapes, but the myths behind them. Stories of gods and heroes, monsters and maidens, all written in light we can never touch. Olivia moved closer, their shoulders almost touching. What happens now? She asked softly. Ethan turned toward her. Now we build something new. If you're willing. He set his glass down, his hand finding hers with the certainty that still amazed her. Stay, Olivia, not as the nanny, but as part of this family we're recreating. You and Lily belong here, with us, with me. The simple words carried profound meaning. This wasn't merely an offer of employment or even friendship. It was an invitation to create a future together, to blend their broken families into something whole and hopeful. The girls would need time, she cautioned. Especially Sophia. She still keeps her mother's memory so close. We all do, Ethan acknowledged. Victoria will always be part of our family story, but she would be the first to tell me that love isn't diminished by sharing it. It's multiplied. He reached up, his fingers gently tracing the contours of her face as if memorizing her through touch. I can't promise it will be easy. I'm still learning how to be the father my daughters need, still finding my way in this darkness. But I know this much. You make me want to be better, to try harder, to see beyond my limitations. Olivia leaned into his touch, her own hand rising to cover his. Yes, she said simply. We'll stay. His smile was like sunrise breaking through clouds, gradual then brilliant. He leaned forward, his lips finding hers with surprising accuracy, a kiss gentle with promise and possibility. Above them, unseen stars continued their ancient patterns, while inside the house, 4 little girls slept peacefully, their future, no longer shrouded in uncertainty, but bright with potential. The Thornwood estate, once a monument to grief and isolation, had become something else entirely, a home where broken pieces were being reassembled into something stronger and more beautiful than before. For Olivia and Ethan, the journey ahead would hold challenges and adjustments, moments of doubt and discovery. But tonight, standing together beneath the vast canopy of stars, they had taken the first step into the light, guided not by sight, but by the surest compass of all, love that transcends darkness, loss, and fear, illuminating a path toward home. Finn, of the story. Dear listeners, we hope that Ethan and Olivia's journey from darkness into light has touched your hearts as deeply as it has touched ours. Their story reminds us that sometimes the most beautiful new beginnings emerge from our darkest moments, and that family isn't just defined by blood, but by the connections we choose to nurture. If this story moved you, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt narratives that explore the resilience of the human spirit. Hit that like button if you believe in second chances, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What moment in Ethan and Olivia's journey resonated with you most? For those seeking more emotional stories like this one, we've created a special playlist with equally captivating narratives. You'll find it by clicking to your left. Every day we bring you unique stories that delve into the complexity of life, love, and healing. Remember, just as Ethan learned to see with his heart rather than his eyes, sometimes the most beautiful visions come when we close our eyes and open our souls. We'll be waiting for you in the comments, and until our next story, may you find light in your own darkest moments. Finn, of the story.